Hi, this is your coach, Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hope everybody's doing well, everybody's staying safe. And yes, if you're on the video portion, you see that one of my companions, Doug the dog, that's what he's actually called, he's a rescue, is hanging out in my office, and hopefully he's not going to snore too loud through this. So I want to come to you guys today, and I wanted to talk to you about just some conversations I'm having with my clients, and I think this is really important in terms of kind of setting the stage for what our industry, what the opportunities are going to be going forward. I think, when I look at some of my clients, so I'll give you one very important example. So I've got one of my clients who's been with me many years. His lease is coming up at the end of this year. It's just the lease part is $5,000, not including all the other stuff you have to do around keeping an office going. His assistant is retiring at the end of this year. He has a junior advisor. And so we're in a conversation, and his office has not been open. He's actually in New York City, so he's sequestered. His junior person's sequestered, and his assistant's sequestered. So they're like in 3 points, not even in the same state in one regard. And we're talking, and he goes, what should I do at the end of this year? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, my lease is up. I said, yeah, okay. So what do you think your options are? He goes, well, I've been using Zoom and GoToMeeting with my clients, and they tend to like it. Bulk of my clients have retired. They're down in Florida full time, so we're doing it that way, and they kind of enjoy it. My staff is okay. It could be better, but at the end of the day, I could put $5,000 back in my pocket if I just found a Regis and I just work from home. I said, that's always a possibility. And I said, you got to think about it, if you look at our industry, and I talked about this 15 years ago, what do we do? What's our deliverables? And I want you to think about this for a second. It's information and intellectual capital / intellectual property, right? Your recommendations, your IP, and information. All that's digitized. All that's virtualized, right? There's no real physical requirement to be in the presence of a financial advisor. There is none. As long as you can do digital signatures and you're paperless, you're ready to go, right? So what would hold an advisor back? Just obsolete thinking. Just reading an article in Investment News a couple weeks ago that, there's advisors and like my group, we're growing our businesses, we're adapting, we're seeing where the opportunities are, and we're stepping into that. And then I read about these other advisors who are like, well, I can't see anybody. Nobody can come to the office. I can't go see them. We can't do seminars, so we're out of business, right? That is a fixed mindset, not a flexible mindset. So the game in our world right now is flexible mindset. If you're operating with a fixed mindset, which is you can't change or don't want to, look, I'll be blunt. You're going to be obsolete. I know you may not want to hear that. It may cause some of you to unsubscribe from what I'm doing, and I appreciate that, and I totally respect it. But I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke because you guys want to hear something different. I've been predicting, not because of COVID-19, but I've been predicting the virtualization of our industry because economically it has to happen. It's too overhead dependent. And so this is just now forcing the biggest beta test in the history of our industry with virtualization. And guess what? It works. Yes, there's some nuances, but let me share with you. So getting back to my client. So we're coming up with a game plan where we're going to not renew the lease in the office, and I'll tell you this: if you're in the commercial real estate business, that's a business I don't want. That in the travel game, I don't want to be around for decades, right? Going to get rid of the office. We're going to get a Regis. We'll get a Regis thing. We can pop around all the boroughs now, right? If we need to, right? We'll save 80% of our overhead. And then we're talking about the assistant now. His assistant's over 6 figures, right? In New York City, things like that. So when they retire, like, what are we going to do? And he goes, well, and so he's thinking kind of this way, and I go, which is very kind of, well, we got to find somebody around locally, and I go, wait, we're virtual. Why do we need to do that? Why can't we go find somebody in Oklahoma or Nebraska or South Dakota who's very good at what they do, or maybe a military spouse who has to travel, right? And you can probably get a highly capable person for half. And then all of a sudden, we're putting $100,000 back in the black ink on the P&L. Interesting, right? And we're just talking about this, and I can hear the gears turning, right? The light bulbs are coming on, things like that. And I think that's what's really important as an industry. There's so much, you can look at this as, oh my gosh, or you can look at this as, you know what, here's maybe an opportunity to do a real shift pivot, right? And I look, and I know there'll be advisors who are going to be stuck in the legacy models, and I think there'll be organizations that are going to be fixed in their thinking. But I'm going to just look. I'm always going to be an honest person here. I always back up what I want to talk about, and I don't really care who I upset or who I piss off. That's never been my marching order. But here's what I really truly believe. I think the model of the future, and look, there's three practice models, right? There's the lifestyle model, the ensemble model, and the enterprise model. And I'll explain all three real quick. So the lifestyle model is the easiest one to virtualize, right? I've got clients who virtualize them now. Work from home, part-time virtual assistant. We won't get into taxation or anything like that, but typically profits before tax, 80-85%. Where's your overhead? Right, you're doing everything virtual. You're working by referrals. I mean, it's a beautiful model. There are entities that gross $1 to $2 million a year top line, but by the time they get them paying the overhead, the marketing, all the the owner's making, the founder owner's making $300,000 to $500,000. Well, I can have a guy make $300,000 to $500,000 with 150 households working part time with 80% less BS. Right? Interesting. So the ensemble model looks like the lifestyle model, but it has maybe a junior advisor, maybe another professional. Again, it could be virtual. They could be 1099 outsourcers, right? You can do $1 million to $2 million top line, again, with some really good profitability there, and again, a lot less BS, right? Very good, right? Now, both those also have the prerequisite that they're independent. You cannot do this in a wirehouse. They won't let you. They'll tell you that you can do it, but you're going to be under the thumb. And why would I give half my top line away when I'm not getting anything for it? What, some crappy technology and some behind the times compliance? Like, where's the value prop in that? It just doesn't exist. So then we get into, the one model I was always interested in is the enterprise model, right? Which is, multiple partners, multiple advisors, half a billion to $1 billion, $2, $3, $4 billion under management. Does that always have to be bricks and mortars, or can you virtualize that? And it's been interesting the last 6 weeks. We've had to trial by fire, and I've got some clients that have those level of enterprises. And what we're finding is, yes, it is possible to build an enterprise level organization, multi-billion dollars, with a very small footprint, everybody working remotely. And that to me has been the game changer. Because now I sit there and say, okay, so what do you really need? And it goes back to what we do as advisors, right? So what is our deliverables, right? And think about this. You provide information and intellectual property, i.e. your consulting, your recommendations, right? And you provide relationship, right? That's what we do. Three things, right? All could be virtualized because they've had to be with everything going on, right? And I am not under any illusion that this thing's going to go magically back to the way it was. I don't think there is going back. I think there's just the way it is, right? Plus or minus. And I think the advisors who can adapt to it are going to have, because look, the boomers are still retiring. Advisors are going to retire. I think they're retired at a higher level now. I think some of the advisors who are fixed mindset, been at this thing for a while, they're not going to want to adapt. They're not going to know how to adapt. They're not going to want to go through the energy of adaptation. And they're going to call it a career. Fine, great. But this is a seminal event in our industry. Make no mistake about this. You look at, if you read it, I've been doing a lot of research at other industries, like, I follow investment banking anyway, because I like following that. And, I'm looking at how investment bankers and leaders are talking about how their organizations are going to transform. Like the Barclays CEO said, why would I want to have 4,000 people in one building? It makes no sense to me. Investment bankers are not jumping on airplanes to visit clients. They're doing things with Zoom calls, and they're being with their children and their families, and they got balance. And most investment bankers burn out. It's a pretty intense industry, and you burn out pretty quick. You make your money, and hopefully you don't get a heart attack, and you live ever after. Now you can stretch that career out because the game's going to change, right, going forward. So I started looking at all these other things. Telemedicine, great example there. We're virtual doctor appointments. I mean, there's things that are happening that you would never see. Well, how's that going to work? Our profession is perfectly suited for it. I mean, dentists have to. You're going to have to go physically see a dentist right now. Lawyers, if you're in litigation, right now until the courts become virtual, right? If the courts aren't open, it's hard to practice, right? Unless you're doing other things. Our game, ubiquitous. Just we're there. Just got to embrace it. But there will be fallout. There will be winners and losers in this game. Make no mistake about that. Who is going to win? The advisors who embrace virtualization. Again, whether your lifestyle model, ensemble model, or enterprise model, doesn't matter. Virtualization and profitability are where it's at. Now, some of you are sitting there and saying, well, how do you develop business, right? Take everything you've done and put it up. Put it in the cloud, right? So, for example, I've got clients, instead of doing rollover workshops, hey, with dinner and all that jazz, right? Hey, we're doing either Zoom webinars, or we're doing Evergreen, where the content's recorded, and it's like a funnel, and people watch it, and then they go and get an opportunity to have a Zoom meeting with the advisor. 100% virtual, digital marketing, 100%, right? And that's where the game is going to be. You can get a referral. Look, I've operated, interesting. So my practice, when I left New Jersey 20 years ago, I literally had a bricks and mortars game. I had like a Regis style office, and I used to go visit my clients first when I first started out. Then I got smart and I got a Regis, and people come to me. And then after a while, people don't want to come. They said, "Hey, I don't want to come in. Can we just do it over the phone?" This is like 1995, 1996. I remember because I had a small computer and AOL. I remember the ding dings in my office. So that's how long I've been at this thing. And when I moved to Florida, I lost one client, maybe two, out of my. Everybody was already used to me working virtually, and so for 20 some odd years, we built this house, I built this office. It hasn't affected. The fact I can't travel and I can't go to my favorite restaurants right now. My gym's closed. I mean, my business really hasn't been affected at all with everything, and it serves as a model for many of my clients the way I operate. Right, virtual team, everything. So that's where our industry is going. So whether, again, and I know some of you are sitting there going, yeah, but I like the office, or I've got little kids at home, or I don't want to be home. Look, I get that. So maybe you're going to maintain a small suite, right, for you. So a place to go, do your thing. Fine. But you don't need all this overhead, is my point. And here's the other thing it does. It gives you locational independence. I want you to think about this. So if you're doing your game in a place where, if I could say, hey, if you could live anywhere in the United States, or maybe anywhere in the world, where would you live, right? And if you say where I am right now, then you're good. But chances are most people would say, I want to live there, or at least I want to spend more time there, right? This gives you the opportunity to do that. Where if you're in Chicago, right? And hey, I like Chicago. Hey, I've been in Chicago. I like it in the summer too. You want to see me set foot in that sucker in the winter, right? So what do? Hey, I do my thing in Chicago where it's nice, and then in the winter I go to Arizona, I go to Naples, I go wherever I want. I take my game to wherever I want to take it to, right? And I go rent a house or whatever I want to do. Maybe I'll buy a second home, and maybe at some point you even domicile in a low tax state, right? You do some tax arbitrage, which is great, and you go do that, right? And you have your lifestyle, you have your game, you have your business, you have your net worth, you have everything the way you want it. These are not hypotheticals, by the way. I have clients who are doing this today. They've done this before all this. This is not a hypothetical conversation. This is what's going on. So then you got to sit there and say to yourself, okay, so, and I think this is also very important. For the last several weeks, a lot of us have been in scarcity survival mode, right? You're like, I just want to get through this thing. And I want to now offer you a different possibility. A different viewpoint. What would happen if you use this as a way to redesign what you do? You take this terrible situation, and you say, you know what? I'm learning how to virtualize everything. I'm learning how to lead virtually with my team, communicate with my clients, get new clients. I'm learning everything without bricks and mortar. Right? And I'm not saying maybe you don't have a small, like a Regis type thing to go meet with clients when you need, but clients don't care. Here's the funny thing. I think clients have finally come to the conclusion that they don't care how big your office is, or what building it's in, or how you dress, or anything like that. I mean, not that you can't be, sloppy. But what they care about, do you act as a fiduciary? Do you have their back? That's what they care about. Period. So these are things that we all as an industry need to go ahead and understand going forward. That this is the way the game is going to be played, forever. And so you got to start looking at things and say, okay, how's my technology, right? How are my business partners, right? And look, for some of you men or women in larger firms, look, you're gonna have a moment of reckoning. And for some of you leaders who might get a hand on this, may get a copy of this, you have a choice to make. Either you're going to find a way to serve advisors in a virtual manner, with a different cost structure, by the way, and different economic deal, or you're going to cease to exist in 10 or 20 years. Period. Maybe even sooner. Our industry now is going to shift because it has to. I am looking forward to that, for that new world, because we've been building it here inside the Magellan Network for over a decade. And now it's here. So if any of this made sense to you, number one, share it with your colleagues, right? Let's talk about this. Number two, ask yourself, what would happen if I was never allowed to go back in my office for whatever reason? Just wasn't allowed back in. Done. Forever. What would I do? Next question. Am I living the life and lifestyle in the location that I always would want? Or would I want to go somewhere else or spend more time somewhere else so I can have more of my ultimate life and lifestyle? You know, I've always said, being a financial advisor is like a platform. It's a vehicle to create the ultimate life and lifestyle. But it's only a vehicle. It's only a platform. It does not happen automatically. You have to be willing to shift, change, do the work, and make it happen. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching this episode of the Magellan Network Show. I look forward to seeing you on future episodes. And like I said, please like this podcast. Follow me on YouTube if you like. Get the word out. And if you have any questions, reach out. Thank you. So there you have it. If you really enjoyed watching this episode, go ahead and subscribe to the Magellan Network Show with Coach Joe here on YouTube. And remember, I'm always here to help you become a better entrepreneur, business owner, and financial advisor. With that, I'll see you next time on the Magellan Network Show with me, Coach Joe. Take care and goodbye.